What happens when you challenge a Hollywood legend to his face? Well, one reporter found out the hard way when Sylvester Stallone, yes, the man behind Rocky and Rambo, fired back with a response no one saw coming. It all started at a press junket for Stallone's latest project. The room was packed with journalists, cameras rolling, microphones pointed, and anticipation hanging in the air. Stallone, now in his 70s but still carrying that undeniable fighter's presence, sat confidently at the front. He had faced countless interviews before, but this one would go down in history. Then came the moment. A reporter, one known for his sharp critiques of Hollywood's biggest names, cleared his throat and decided to go for the kill. Sylvester, you've had an incredible career, no doubt, but some people say your movies are outdated, too formulaic. Do you ever worry that your legacy won't hold up in the long run? The room fell silent. Some reporters shifted in their seats. A few exchanged nervous glances. Was Stallone about to snap? Would he brush it off? Or would he do what he does best? Fight back? What he said next? It left everyone stunned. The room remained frozen for a moment, the weight of the question settling in. It wasn't just a casual inquiry. It was a direct challenge to Sylvester Stallone's legacy. Stallone, sitting at the front of the press conference, didn't react right away. He leaned back slightly, arms crossed, studying the reporter who had just questioned everything he had built over decades. The journalist, Mark Davidson, was known for his sharp takes on Hollywood stars. He had built a reputation for being blunt, sometimes even ruthless, when discussing aging actors and their careers. And now, in front of a packed room, he had just implied that Stallone's legacy might not last. A few reporters exchanged glances, some whispering to each other. They all knew that Stallone was no stranger to criticism. He had heard it all. He wasn't a real actor. His movies were too predictable, and his time in Hollywood should have ended long ago. But the thing about Sylvester Stallone? He wasn't just an actor. He was a fighter. He slowly leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. His expression was unreadable. Not anger, not amusement, just calm confidence. The room was waiting. Was he about to unleash a legendary Stallone-style comeback? Would he shut the reporter down in one sentence? Or would he take the high road? And then, he spoke. His reply wasn't just an answer. It was a lesson, a reminder, and it would leave the entire room speechless. Sylvester Stallone leaned in, his expression calm yet piercing. The room was silent, waiting for what they assumed would be a fiery comeback, maybe even a classic Stallone-style shutdown. But instead, what came next was something far more powerful. Stallone let the question hang in the air for a moment before finally speaking. His voice was steady, confident, and laced with just a hint of amusement. "So, my legacy might not hold up, huh?" he repeated, nodding slowly. He exhaled, then smirked. "Let me tell you something, kid. I've been hearing that for almost 50 years. The reporter, Mark Davidson, shifted in his seat. The tone in Stallone's voice wasn't defensive or angry. It was factual. It carried the weight of a man who had fought battles long before this press conference. Back when I wrote Rocky, nobody believed in me. Nobody wanted me in the movie. They told me I wasn't a real actor, that I didn't have the look, the talent, or the ability to carry a film. You know how many studios rejected Rocky?" Stallone paused, looking around the room. A few people shook their heads. 150. 150 times I was told no. The room shifted. 150 rejections. That wasn't just persistence. That was unbreakable determination. They told me Rambo was too violent, that it wouldn't work, that I was wasting my time. Then it became one of the most successful action franchises of all time. A small murmur rippled through the reporters. They knew the history, but hearing it straight from Stallone himself was different. Stallone then leaned back in his chair, clasping his hands together. His next words? They hit harder than any punch thrown in a boxing ring. "Now let me ask you something, Mark," he said, looking directly at the reporter. "How many people have lined up to criticize me over the years? 100? 1,000? Maybe more?" The reporter opened his mouth, but Stallone wasn't done. "But here's the funny thing. None of them are sitting here today. You know why?" He paused for effect. "Because critics come and go. The internet moves on. People forget who said what. But the work? The work stays. Rocky is still here. Rambo is still here. The people who doubted me? Gone. Boom. The words landed with undeniable force. Some journalists nodded in appreciation. Others sat frozen, realizing that this wasn't just an answer. It was a masterclass in resilience. Stallone then cracked a grin. Look, I get it. I'm not a kid anymore. I don't run up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art like I used to. But if you think my legacy is fading, let me tell you something, Mark. He leaned in again, his voice low but powerful. Legends don't fade. They fight. The room erupted. Some reporters clapped. Others just sat there stunned. Stallone had just delivered one of the greatest responses in Hollywood press conference history. For a few seconds after Stallone's words landed, the room was completely silent. It wasn't the awkward kind of silence. It was the kind that comes when people are genuinely absorbing something powerful. Even Mark Davidson, the reporter who had asked the question, sat frozen, as if he hadn't expected such a response. Then finally he spoke. But his voice wasn't as sharp as before. He hesitated, then let out a small, almost nervous chuckle. I have to admit I wasn't expecting that answer. Stallone smirked. No one ever does. A few reporters laughed, not the forced media room kind of laugh, but a real, genuine reaction. The atmosphere, which had started tense, had completely shifted. What had begun as a journalist trying to corner a Hollywood legend had turned into something else. A conversation about perseverance, legacy, and what it truly means to last. But then, something even more unexpected happened. Mark leaned forward, clearing his throat. His demeanor was different now, not as a reporter pushing for a headline, but as someone who had just been reminded of something deeper. You know, Mr. Stallone, he began. I think I understand what you're saying more than you might think. Stallone raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh yeah? Mark nodded. He hesitated for a moment as if debating whether to continue. Then with a small sigh, he said, My father was a writer. He spent his whole life working on books, scripts, anything he could get his hands on. But he never made it big. He got rejected, over and over. And when I was younger, I used to ask him why he kept trying. The room, which had been buzzing just moments ago, fell quiet again. This time, not out of tension, but because no one had expected the reporter to share something so personal. He always told me, Mark continued, that success isn't measured by how many times you win. It's measured by how many times you get knocked down and still get back up. Stallone smiled. Not the smirk he had worn earlier, but something more real, more human. Sounds like your dad was a fighter, he said. Mark nodded, a small smile forming on his own face. Yeah, he was. For a brief moment, the two just looked at each other, two men from different worlds, but both carrying the same unshakable truth. Legacies aren't built by avoiding failure. They're built by pushing through it. Finally, Stallone broke the silence with a chuckle. So, after all that, do you still think my legacy won't hold up? Mark shook his head, still smiling. I think your legacy is exactly what it's meant to be. The room erupted into applause. It wasn't the usual press conference reaction. This wasn't just about promoting a movie or getting a headline. This was a moment. A real, unscripted, human moment. Even some of the reporters who had come in skeptical, perhaps even looking for a way to spin the story, found themselves nodding along. And as for Stallone, he simply sat back, arms crossed, that familiar glint in his eye. Because he knew. This was exactly why his legacy would last. Within minutes of the press conference ending, the internet erupted. Clips of Sylvester Stallone's powerful response to the reporter spread across every major platform. Twitter, or X as it's now called, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. People couldn't get enough. It wasn't just another celebrity soundbite. It was a moment of pure, unfiltered resilience from one of Hollywood's most enduring icons. Major media outlets quickly picked up on the viral frenzy. Headlines flooded news feeds. CNN. Sylvester Stallone's epic response to a reporter goes viral. A masterclass in confidence. Fox News. Stallone silences a doubter with the ultimate comeback. Hollywood take notes. The Hollywood Reporter. Sylvester Stallone just proved why he's a legend. and the internet agrees. The Daily Wire. A reporter questioned Stallone's legacy. His answer was a knockout. Even rival entertainment sites, which had occasionally been critical of Stallone in the past, couldn't ignore the moment. YouTube talk shows dissected his response, breaking down every word, every pause, every expression. Some called it one of the greatest press conference moments in recent history. Others debated whether Stallone had officially cemented himself as more than just a movie star, but a true cultural icon. The most unexpected reaction came from other celebrities. Within hours, some of the biggest names in Hollywood were posting their reactions, many praising Stallone for his wisdom, authenticity, and ability to command a room even after decades in the industry. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson tweeted, "This is why Stallone is a legend. Period. Respect. Eye of the Tiger." Joe Rogan shared the clip with the caption, "Stallone just gave the most motivational speech of the year without even trying." Even Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone's longtime friend and former rival, posted on Instagram, "I've known Sly for decades, and this is why he's still standing strong. Legends don't fade, they fight." Fans joined in, flooding social media with reactions, memes, and heartfelt messages. Some of the funniest memes included a still of Stallone leaning in with the caption, "Legends don't fade, they fight." A side-by-side image of the reporter before and after Stallone's speech, labeled "Confidence Level, Destroyed." A picture of Rocky training with the caption, "When you realize Stallone has been proving people wrong since 1976. And of course, the classic Rocky quote resurfaced, "It ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." The virality of the moment wasn't just limited to fans. Even professional critics, many of whom had spent years dismissing Stallone as just an action star, found themselves unexpectedly respecting his response. One well-known film critic, who had once written a harsh review of Rocky Balboa, 2006, tweeted, "I'll be the first to admit, I've underestimated Stallone for years. But this was different. This was a man who has lived what he preaches. Respect." Another journalist wrote, "Stallone just proved why he's still relevant. Not because of Hollywood, not because of nostalgia, but because he embodies what it means to never give up." Perhaps the biggest indicator of how impactful this moment was came from YouTube. Within 24 hours, multiple videos analyzing the press conference had racked up millions of views. One video titled "Stallone's Greatest Comeback Better Than Rocky" soared past 5 million views in just a single day. The comments section was flooded. "This man is the definition of resilience. Hollywood needs more legends like this. I came here expecting a typical celebrity response, but I left feeling motivated to go chase my dreams." The best part? Stallone didn't even have to try. He just spoke the truth. That reporter learned a valuable lesson. Never bet against Stallone. While social media debates raged on about whether this was Stallone's most legendary moment, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just a great answer. It was a statement. In an era where celebrities are constantly scrutinized, where actors are often told to stay in their lane, Stallone reminded the world why he has endured. His response wasn't just about defending his legacy. It was a masterclass in self-belief, perseverance, and the importance of never backing down. The moment captured something that went beyond Hollywood, beyond movies. It spoke to anyone who has ever been doubted, anyone who has ever had to fight for their dreams, anyone who has ever been told they weren't good enough. Because when Stallone leaned forward and said, "Legends don't fade, they fight," it wasn't just a quote. It was a reminder of what it takes to truly last. As the dust settled and the internet continued its heated debates, one thing became clear. This wasn't just another viral celebrity moment. This was something deeper. It was about what it truly means to build a legacy. For years, Stallone had been a polarizing figure in Hollywood. Some hailed him as a cinematic legend, a man who had defined the underdog spirit with Rocky and set the gold standard for action heroes with Rambo. Others dismissed him as a relic of the past, claiming his movies were repetitive, his style outdated. Yet through it all, he never stopped pushing forward. That was exactly what made his response to the reporter so impactful. It wasn't just about proving a journalist wrong. It wasn't about ego. It was about something much bigger, a lesson in resilience, a statement about what it means to outlast the critics. People love to talk about legacy, but few truly understand what it takes to build one. In Hollywood, careers rise and fall overnight. One bad movie, one PR mistake, and an actor can be cast aside. Yet here was Stallone, decades into his career, still commanding a room, still making headlines, still proving why he belonged. What made this moment so powerful was that it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't scripted. Stallone wasn't promoting a movie or trying to craft a viral soundbite. He was just being himself. And that authenticity, his unshakable belief in his own journey, was exactly why his words hit so hard. When he told the reporter that legends don't fade, they fight, it wasn't just a clever line. It was the philosophy that had defined his entire life. From the moment he wrote Rocky with just a few dollars in his bank account, to the years he spent proving that he was more than just an action star, Stallone had built his career on perseverance. And in that moment, everyone watching, whether they were a fan or a critic, had to acknowledge one undeniable truth. Stallone had earned his place in Hollywood. But perhaps the most unexpected part of all this wasn't just how Stallone responded, it was how the reporter reacted. When Mark Davidson shared the story about his father, the entire mood in the room shifted. What had started as a confrontation turned into a moment of mutual understanding. For the first time in his career, maybe even in his life, the reporter found himself in a position he hadn't expected, to not just challenge, but to relate. That was the beauty of what happened that day. It wasn't just about proving a point or shutting down a critic. It was about connection. Stallone could have easily dismissed the reporter's question, could have made a joke, or walked away with a witty one-liner. But instead, he chose to turn the moment into something meaningful. He used his own struggles to remind not just the journalist, but everyone watching, that legacy isn't given, it's earned. And in doing so, he gave the world a reminder of something even bigger than movies, bigger than fame, the power of never backing down. So what do you think? Did Stallone just deliver one of the most legendary responses in Hollywood history, or was this just another classic moment from a man who's built his career on proving people wrong? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if you love stories about resilience, epic comebacks, and unforgettable moments, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a beat. Because if there's one thing this moment proved, it's that legends don't fade, they fight. And Sylvester Stallone? He's still fighting.